So my name is Brad Forder. I'm Director of Programming for the festival, and I'm joined by filmmakers for It's Our Future, which is part of the Short Film Block Youth Focus. So with us is Lukas Huffman, who is the director, and producers Heather Sioux and
Hey
Emily
there.
Fano. Hi, thank you all for joining.
Yeah, our pleasure, Brad.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And Lukas, I wanted to start with you. I know you have a background in science and technology driven films. I wanted to start by just getting a sense of what led you to this project and what it was like working with the students too.
Yeah, well, this is actually my second film with Emily and NWF and her program. So for this film in particular, I think it was just, kind of getting the band back together and it's being able to tell like science and technology stories, like especially within a youth context, is a pure pleasure. Because we do a fair amount of adult driven science, and technology stuff. And so to be able to tell a story of what kids are doing and what they're learning, just brings like it's a joy to see their curiosity, and to try the best as possible to let that experience come through on screen, as well as, balance the actual content of the information of what they're learning, which was really important on this project.
Well, Lukas, were the students eager to be on camera? How did that work when you kind of first approached them? That can be intimidating even for adults. So
Oh yeah.
how did the students?
I mean, science, like scientists are notoriously camera shy, and then the students, it was really, half of them are a little bit, raise an eyebrow because we're there and we have a camera and they're in their like normal school setting. And then the other half aren't. But it seems like once they kind of get talking, and especially some of the interviews we do, we're in like, we might start in a group setting where people, I think, are a little more comfortable, when their friends are around. And what's always a pleasant surprise is how like articulate these kids are, about the science material. And then on top of that, the nature of our story is at the, seat of it is like climate activism, which is a pretty large and complex just concept to grapple with, even for me. And to hear, the clarity that they would talk with, that was really pleasant. And but once you get them talking, that's the kind of key. You just kind of get them talking, and you start with small stuff. What'd you have for breakfast? And then you move on to how are you going to change the world?
Absolutely. Well, and Heather, one of the great things we've been seeing with the content coming through the festival, because every year we kind of have different patterns of environmental content, but over the last few years, we're seeing a lot of films by students, about students. Our opening film, Youth v. Gov, highlights youth empowerment. Talk about the importance of the students in this program using their voices, learning how to use their voices, and coming away feeling empowered as kind of climate advocates.
Yeah, definitely. It's really exciting to hear that. That's kind of like a new thing coming out, and you're seeing more of the students really taking the lead in these conversations. It's a few things for us. We really wanted Risk to be able to empower them to speak about their experiences, and especially their lived experience. A lot of these students are from frontline communities, which we're realizing, we need to make sure we center those voices and those spaces, as they're the ones who will be the most impacted, as will future generations. So students really are the center for that space, and just seeing their involvement and engagement and excitement to, take that up and really just be out there speaking, truth to power and living it is just, it's really rewarding for all of us, I think.
Well, it's great. And Emily, too, talk a little more too about the Risk curriculum and what does this give students that they might not be getting in the classroom?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Thanks for that question. I mean, as one of the teachers in the video, in the film actually mentioned, Tim Hitchcock, the students aren't really getting a robust climate education right now in our schools. I think the national average is 1.5 hours of learning about climate change in an entire school curriculum. And that just doesn't match the scale of the crisis that we're facing. And so students really need to be getting the tools that they need and the knowledge and the information to be able to understand the crisis and then to take action on it. And what I think the risk curriculum and program does successfully is it gives them that information, but also it's an empowering message of action and the action that they can take in their own schools and their own communities to mitigate the impacts of climate change that they're seeing and feeling all around them, and then to also magnify that and amplify that in their communities.
Well, what were some of the most what were they most excited to kind of learn about as they were in the field? And of course, we saw this, as you all were filming it. But talk a little bit about that too. What seemed to have the most interest for them?
Yeah, I think getting out of the classroom was like the best thing about the program for most of the kids. I mean, getting outside, first of all, and then getting to be on a boat, I think is a really special experience that most kids don't get to have during a normal school day. And so getting them outside to see on a boat what their coastal geography is and the ecology of place and the vulnerability of the shoreline from the water, to see what the shoreline looks like, the impacts that it's gone through, especially after Hurricane Sandy, some of the shoreline changes that they were able to observe. I think that was really powerful for them, and it was an experience that they carried with them through the school year. Also learning about the ecology, the plants and the animals that live in the harbor, and but just the impacts that the shoreline has gone through as a result of some of sea level rise and some of the coastal storms that New York has lived through.
Well,
I think, Brad, there's like something that is I could see for them as well is that the field trips take you to these like wildlife centers that are literally in the metropolitan area, and so many New Yorker and Brooklyners, adults and youth alike, our focus is like so much on like what's happening in the urban environment, and then to realize that you can take the train 20 minutes and you're on the bay. That's always a really cool thing to see, and you can see them just kind of be like, whoa, this feels like a real rural experience, but we're a stone's throw from all of our buildings.
Absolutely, it's right kind of almost in the backyard there. Well, obviously we've all been affected by the pandemic too. Heather, talk a little bit also about how this program has been affected, possibly how even this film project was.
Yeah, we definitely all had to adapt abruptly and rather quickly. And of course, try to keep in mind we're working with middle school and high school age students and the difficulties and challenges that they're facing, taking that into account. I know that as we design and build our programs, the empathy side of it is really important to us, to allow students to have time to process and to just kind of get out some of what's going on for them in their lives. So we were able to pivot really successfully for the film's sake, and with a few of our teachers volunteering and students who were really eager and willing to like document their experience, as you'll see in the film, and really grateful for that. And we also were hearing back with regular calls and check-ins about kind of the community that we were building as a risk program, just towards a culture of awareness and preparedness and resiliency being like that platform for everything. We really wanted to make sure we had that space for people. Our teachers had that space for us, with us, and we had some really positive feedback about teachers and their students being able to connect within their risk program, and within like the students in the risk program, they saw them kind of coming back more, coming into the Zooms more and into the classroom a little bit more, because they already had that space for the processing and the connection and just building those ideas of resilience.
Well, and our thanks go out to obviously all the teachers as well right now. And before we close, I'd like to ask all of you, are there any other takeaways that you'd like to share from this film project, from Risk? And what do you hope kind of the audience, the folks seeing this will learn from the film?
I can speak pretty passionately about that one. You know, coming into it, the climate change, especially in this era, is a pretty bleak topic. And as you know, an adult, I don't know why this is, but it feels fairly bleak. And so, you know, I'm preparing to, you know, talk with kids about it, and just trying to somehow like stage it and frame it in a way that doesn't seem so bleak. But the kids just inherently are fairly that's like not really optimistic, but like really pragmatic.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, the sense I got was that there wasn't, you know, the time to shuffle their feet and like kick the sand, but that, you know, but to produce like real solutions. And that was definitely surprising to me, and that was, I mean, that was inspiring to be able to spend the day and hear them talk about that.
That's great.
Yeah, I can go next. I think the important takeaway for me is that the concept of resilience that we used in the program is an empowering one, and kind of jumping off what Lukas just said is that it gives students hope that there are solutions at hand. And I think that is partly what helped kind of this feeling of optimism throughout the film and also throughout the program. And so the other part is that youth are really smart and we don't give them enough credit, and they want to take action on climate change. And so the more we can get this information out to students and schools and youth, they do have the power, and they're going to change the world because they have that ability. So let's believe in them and give them those opportunities.
Absolutely.
Definitely, I would echo Emily, what you're saying there, because the students are always very surprising and passionate and engaged and energetic. And, you know, I think just giving the space and time to listen as well as adults and hear back, you know, what the experience is or what they want to see happen and change, and really listening to them, and having more opportunity for them to be able to have the platform to speak out, you know, whether it's film or public forums or, you know, whatever way possible. I think is just really, it's inspiring and hopeful for all of us, I think.
Absolutely. And thank you to you all. Thanks for your time. Again, the film is It's Our Future. And again, we appreciate sharing it with our festival audience.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks.